Welcome back. Last week I told you that Sonichu issue 4 was a turning point in the comic, and today you're going to see what it set the stage for. Sonichu was already a crazy train, but in issue 5 it's going to completely jump the rails, then do a backflip in midair, spontaneously catch fire, and then sexually humiliate its best friend. I'm DStecks, and this is a bad review.
My brain is plastic, sugar-coated magic, twisted and a turning and a burning for you. My brain is plastic, flimsy and it's tragic. You always said that misery was built for two.
Now, before we start things off, let's recap where we were at the end of issue 3.
Sonichu 2 introduced the Ancient Prophecy, which gave Chris the power to transform into a Mary Sue, which gave Chris the power to transform into a furry, which gave Chris the power to transform into Chris Chan Sonichu. It also gave this power to his childhood friend and long-term crush Sarah Hammer, and her ex-boyfriend Wes Isley. As a reminder, none of these people are fictional. However, Chris releasing the Sonichu powers also released Count Graduon, who is the ultimate bad guy in the series despite having the lowest ranking title you can play as in Crusader Kings. Chris, Wes, and Sarah are also all reincarnations of Native Americans who previously fought over the Cherokean crown, a golden crown the Cherokees made with the metallurgy they totally had. In addition to this, Sonichu 3 introduced the Chaotic Combo, who were last seen beating the piss out of Black Sonichu, who is still in the employ of Giovanni and Dr. Robotnik. However, the main villain of the series, Mary Lee Walsh, only gets involved during the sub-episodes. So, it's helpful to think of Sonichu as having 3 protagonists: Sonichu, Chris Chan, and Chris Chan Sonichu. If that confuses you, you poor fuck, you ain't seen nothing yet.
While Sonichu is nominally the protagonist of the comic, the Ancient Powers story arc had clearly been set up as the centerpiece of the Sonichu mythos. But then Sarah Hammer got married. And by the time he wrote this comic, Chris probably hadn't spoken to Wes Isley in years, if indeed they'd ever exchanged words at all. So, this episode exists to take that story arc out back and shoot it like Old Yeller. Despite their alleged critical importance in the prophecy of defeating Count Graduon, neither Sarah nor Wes will ever be mentioned after this episode again. This is what I'm talking about when I say that Sonichu jumps the rails.
The cover to Sonichu 5 depicts a 50-foot Mary Lee Walsh holding a dark mirror with Mickey Mouse ears in which Chris Chan is imprisoned. The comic is dated April 29th, 2006, making it about a year and a half away from when Chris would be first discovered by the internet. Curiously, the area beneath Sonichu's speech bubble has been very obviously, clumsily photoshopped. This is because Chris makes the speech bubbles part of the original artwork, in contrast to mainstream comics, which make plain artwork first, and then insert the speech bubbles later, usually digitally. You can tell that Chris does this by the way that the marker lines contour around his speech bubbles. The way that Chris handles dialogue is that, when he's first drawing the original art, he writes the dialogue in with pencil. Then he scans the image into his computer and digitally replaces it with all-caps Comic Sans. The cover to Sonichu 5 actually preserves some of this original pencil dialogue, presumably because the thought bubble is too small to accommodate those words at that size font, and for whatever reason he didn't want to make the font smaller. But if that's the case, what I don't understand is, why didn't he make Chris's thought bubble bigger, like he made Sonichu's thought bubble smaller, on the same damn page? Our comic begins with Episode 12, Christian Chandler in My Best Friend's Cherokean Wedding. On the right side of the page, we see a wedding chapel. However, the wedding bells are not in the bell tower as they should be, but are flying high above the chapel, presumably in an attempt to escape this shitty comic. Tonight's special summoned guest star, Jax Knight, plays the role of the groom, William Spicer. He is snowboarding on a door. Chris warps in invisibly to witness the wedding, a wedding which, in character, there is no good reason for him not to be invited to. The 3-foot-tall girl in this image is not in fact the Flower Girl, but is in fact a mangled attempt to depict Sarah Hammer. Standing next to her is in fact not the Statue of Liberty, but is in fact still Jax Knight, portraying William Spicer, presumably because Chris had never actually met the man that his alleged best friend was marrying. In this next image, either Invisible Chris is floating in the air, or the wedding guests he couldn't be buggered to draw are literally 1 foot tall. Wesley Sonichu leans in to sneak a peek at the wedding and mutters to himself, "If I can't have her, then I'll play Magic."
Actually, you're going to be playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's too bad I can't stay to catch the bouquet, but at least I can watch my old friend leave for a happier life. As long as my barrier attack lasts, I can remain visible only in spirit. I'm also happy because I've found a real super girl who allows my heart to feel stronger with love. A sweet sailor soldier who I've first met after started playing the heart of the cards. Like destiny in a pyramid of light. But not just destiny, but a strong, pure love, sweeter than a passionate strawberry or the sweetest piece of chocolate. Then, all of a sudden, Chris has psychic powers, and he foresees the Statue of Liberty being assassinated and Sarah being kidnapped by Wesley, and then all of a sudden, Yu-Gi-Oh! Starts happening. Chris and Wesley's brief fight is tedious and tension-free, thanks to Chris employing his favorite fight scene writing technique, making up powers as he needs them. Then Christian snaps his right leg in half and has his fruity Sailor Moon transformation sequence where he humps the air a bunch. I am the legendary warrior of love and honesty, Chris Chan Sonichu. Christopher Chandler, how dare you interrupt my frank and cruel lovey-dovey plans, you autistic freak! Remember, Meg Chan, future happiness for us, Sarah's future happiness, mostly Megan. Chris says, equating his and Megan's platonic friendship with Sarah and William's marriage. I do not want to fight on my old best friend's happy dappy day. Happy dappy day? Happy dappy day? We can be adult about this with you leaving in peace and leaving the new Mrs. Sarah Nicole Hammer Spicer Jingleheimer Schmidt live her future in peace. Chris's argument fails to persuade Wesley. Wesley bams back into the wedding chapel. If there is anyone who objects to this union of Sarah and William, speak now, or forever hold your peace. I do?
How do you screw up an I object?
Wes grows about 50% larger and kidnaps Sarah. "The dame comes with me," he says. Okay, who played the Megamorph, says Chris. Well, obviously Wes did, Chris, you dumb fuck. Wesley Sonichu slaps away from the wedding chapel, and then Sarah's parents chew out Chris for letting him get away. Then a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Bullshit happens. Time to activate my quick spells with my quick spells. Christian pursues Wesley across what looks like a beach. Hey Wes, Apple Core, Baltimore, who's your friend? Me?
This would normally be the part where I'd cut away to a bit where I'm like, what are they talking about? I don't understand what's going on. But I actually did my research here. Baltimore is an Apple Core band, Apple Core being a subgenre of crunkcore that primarily deals with iPods, iPads, Macs, and other Apple products, and is generally considered to be the second worst musical genre of all time. The first being, obviously, Hitlercore.
Wer sie geschlagen hat uns geschlagen. Wer sie geschmäht hat uns geschmäht. Wer sie vergewaltigt hat uns vergewaltigt.
Then Chris uses Yu-Gi-Oh! Bullshit to magically save Sarah. Darn him and his stupido magic. I'm the one with the rabbit, Wes says, in a statement that would be completely incomprehensible if you didn't know that Wes Isley is a magician in real life. Wesley fights back, but as he follows Christian, he's tripped up by... well, this is going to take some explaining. A wedding ceremony has no place for burned-up exes, says brunette Sailor Moon as she and her friend launch into a tirade of pure word salad. We are sailor soldiers. Plotting from behind a sacred column serves no love or justice. And to destroy the dreams of an old friend of a friend of ours is unforgivable. And the hopes and dreams of future happiness earned from tortured times are priceless. And we stand for the lights of every heart and justice. I am Magaji La Skunk. I am Sailor Megatoon. In the name of all hearts, we shall punish you.
This is Megan Schrader, probably the closest thing Christian has ever had to a real friend. Sarah Hammer was supposedly his childhood best friend, but his fondest memory of her was the time she played an honestly pretty mean prank on him. locking him in an attic by tricking him into thinking that Casper the Friendly Ghost was in there. The only other person he's mentioned who would be like a close friend was a guy named Joshua Martinez, who tried to con Chris out of electronics by pretending to be Vanessa Hudgens. If you're noticing a trend here, it's that Chris is extremely gullible. And buddy, you don't know the half of it.
Anyway, we are putting out dedication to Joshua Martinez, followed by one for Vanessa and Hudgens. Hey, don't believe his pictures of all the ladies he has on his iPhone. They're from people's MySpace pages that he doesn't even know, so he's lying through his ass. And I bet he was lying through his ass when you told me that I was talking to Vanessa Hudgens the whole time. Even though, it would have been a nice gap if I actually been talking to her for real. But nonetheless, his screen name was used for it every time I talked to supposedly her. It probably was him the whole time. What a dang dirty liar.
Chris had a collection of gal pals in high school who probably just tolerated him and made fun of him behind his back. And he's never once mentioned meeting anybody at college. Megan was a part of a group of people who liked to hang out at the Game Place, a game shop in Charlottesville, which became Christian's favorite hangout after he graduated. Unlike all of Christian's other friends, who he'd met purely through happenstance, Megan was the first person to actually share interests with him, namely the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, which is why Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays such a prominent role in this episode, even though that makes no sense. However, Megan also had a number of interests that Christian didn't share, and he decided to rectify that situation. Namely, that being anime, and that's why the art in this episode is all of a sudden more anime than normal, because Christian was trying to impress Megan.
"How dare you two! I will not be taken down by the likes of you," says Wesley. He then hawks a flame loogie, but Sailor Megatoon deflects it with her Rockin' Hurricane attack. "Wow, that girl can rock," says Sarah. "You sure know a winner, Chris." "Christopher?" Chris falls to his knees and drools like a moron. "Ah, Mego, my heart." Megadula Skunk whams Chris upside the head and says, "This is not the time to oogle my maternal creator. You have to play that last quick spell." "Yeah, you're right," Chris says, and then uses Yu-Gi-Oh! Bullshit to win instantly. Later, at the church, Chris thinks about the day's events. Sarah almost lost her straightforward shot to long happiness. I hope that I will get to walk down that aisle someday myself, with no trouble. Asymmetrical feelings. I love Megan, yet she's not ready to return or seek it. I'd feel better if I could chat with her on the phone, although she's uncomfortable doing that. Our email communications are okay, but speech speaks louder than typed words. Then Sarah throws Christian her bouquet. "I wanted to thank you for the wonderful childhood years between you and me, and for being by my side today. I wish you the best of your Megan's love. Good luck to you, Christopher Chandler," she says, fucking up his name. "Thank you, Sarah. I wish you the happiest of years as well." Footnote: catching a bride's bouquet is a sign meaning a strong chance of marriage for you within a few years. The end.
Tune in next week, yes, next week, as the Megan craziness continues and Sonichu goes off in a bonkers new direction. I'm DStecks, and this was a bad review.
Virginia is for virgins, yet eventually he/she should lose it to their sweetheart-felt significant other, with a big entree of true love for each other. Children will be blessed for killing of educated adults who ignore 4 simultaneous days same Earth rotation. True love is priceless.